Better run it this way.
Yeah, Morgan's got a
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the April meeting of your Louisville Town Council. So glad you're here with us today in the council chambers, as well as those of you watching at home on TV6. And I hope soon to be watching on Facebook. And if you are watching our streaming on LouisvilleNC.net, around the world, you can hear about Louisville tonight. We're glad, no matter how you're here this evening, we're so glad you're interested in being part of your town government. We'll start our meeting this evening with an invocation by Councilmember Bohoff, and which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're able, please stand and join us.
I don't think Bo's a councilman.
What am I calling?
I'm
you?
a council member now.
Without being elected. Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you,
It's
Mr.
the
Howe.
only way to serve.
Let us pray.
God our Father, we give you thanks for this beautiful day and for the beauty of the earth and the world that you've created for us. For that we give you thanks. We give you thanks for this wonderful town in which we live and for the citizens who make it the town, for the staff who help to run this town, and for the elected body. Give them wisdom, give them courage this evening as they hear the matters that come before them in the business that is at hand. And then when the meeting is done, let us all shake hands, and then let us go home in safety. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Well, Bo, you maintained your composure very well after I gave you that promotion. Ladies and gentlemen, it's our pleasure right now to introduce our town council, starting down on the right.
Hi, I'm Councilman Zinger. It's great to see you all here tonight. Thank you for coming out.
Good evening, I'm Ed Smith. Welcome, everybody.
Good evening, I'm Sandra Mock.
I am Mike Horn.
Robert Green.
Good evening, Marcy Gallman.
And I'm Fred Franklin.
Also with us this evening are our town staff, town manager Hank Perkins, our councilman Bo Houff, our planning director Stacy Tolbert. Back in the back is George Hauser. He's operating the cameras and the Facebook page tonight. Our town clerk, Ms. Joyce Walker, our town finance director, Ms. Pam Orell. Do we have any other staff members here this evening? Corporal, or is it official? Yeah, Corporal Stringer is back there in the back. Thank you, Corporal, for being here tonight. Very good. Council members, we've had one addition to the agenda, and it falls under 3, and this will be 3B2, and it's recognizing all of those incredibly tall women who have lined the back of the room tonight, the Forsyth Country Day basketball team. So if you'll add that to your agenda.
3A2.
3A2.
3,
They're highlighted.
3A2.
I've got it as 3B2. Ms. Walker, did you switch it on me?
No,
Okay.
3A2.
3A2.
382.
As you can tell, the council members are eagerly awaiting to catch me in my faux pas, and I appreciate that because they keep the process moving forward. Okay. Council members, any other corrections, changes, additions?
Motion to
Not,
approve.
we'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Smith, I believe, made the motion, and Mr. Zinger made the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That is our agenda this evening. Hank, will you take us through our consent agenda, please?
Yes, sir. Tonight's consent agenda consists of Resolution 2019027 for the acceptance and approval of monthly financials for February 2019, the approval of council planning minutes from February 2nd, 2019, approval of council briefing and action minutes from February 7th, 2019, the approval of council meeting minutes February 14th, 2019, the approval of council meeting minutes March 7th, 2019, approval of council meeting minutes March 14th, 2019, approval of council closed session minutes, meeting minutes March 14th, 2019, Resolution 2019025, accepting the resignation of Leslie Bordeaux from the Louisville Recycling Committee, and finally, Resolution 2019033, accepting the resignation of Lang Wilcox from the Louisville Utilities Committee.
Very good. Council members, any questions for the manager? Ladies and gentlemen, the consent agenda are items that ordinarily come before the council as a routine matter. Council members are free to pull any single item off and discuss it separately. Otherwise, we take them as a group for approval. What's your pleasure, council?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Franklin makes a motion, Mr. Zinger makes the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, that's unanimous. Mrs. Walker, we have a proclamation.
Yes, we do.
Would you read it for us, please?
This is Proclamation 2019001, Parkinson's Awareness Month, April 2019. Whereas Parkinson's disease is a chronic, progressive, neurological disease and is the second most common neurodegenerative disease in the United States, and whereas the Parkinson's disease is the 14th leading cause of death in the United States, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and over 1 million Americans are currently living with Parkinson's disease. And whereas research suggests the cause of Parkinson's disease is a combination of genetic and environmental factors, but the exact cause and progression of the disease is still unknown, as there is no objective test or biomarker for Parkinson's disease, and there is no cure or drug to slow or halt the progression of this disease. And whereas the symptoms of Parkinson's disease vary from person to person and can include tremors, slowness of movement and rigidity, difficulty with balance, swallowing, chewing, and speaking, cognitive impairment and dementia, mood disorders, and a variety of other non-motor symptoms. And whereas increased research, education, and community support, services such as those provided by the Parkinson's Foundation and other organizations are needed to find more effective treatments and to provide access to quality care to those living with the disease today. And whereas volunteers, researchers, caregivers, and medical professionals are working to improve the quality of life of persons living with Parkinson's disease and their families, and to find more effective treatments for those living with the disease. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mike Horn, Mayor of the Town of Louisville, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim the month of April in 2018 as Parkinson's Awareness Month, dated this the 11th day of April 2019 for the Louisville Town Council.
Council members, may we have an appropriate motion, please?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Mock makes the motion, Mr. Smith makes the second. Any additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, that's unanimous. Carol Gerhardt is here to accept this on behalf of your organization. Carol, thank you very much. I know you guys work tirelessly, and this is I think all of us probably have been touched in our lives or know somebody who has been affected by Parkinson's. It's a horrible, horrible disease, and thank you for all you all are doing.
Thank you for supporting us.
Glad we could be part of it. So, as I mentioned earlier, there is a delegation from Forsyth Country Day who gathered around the room. Why don't you all come on up? And they're here with Coach Frank Brown and Coach Gary Haley. Which coaches would like to introduce your team here?
All right, well, good evening. We're excited to be recognized by the city of Louisville this evening. We've got 4 of the ladies from our state championship team here with us tonight. As a matter of fact, I'll actually let them introduce themselves.
All right, I'll start off. I'm Mary Williams. I'm a junior at Forsyth Country Day. I'm Jessica Kilborn. I'm a sophomore at Forsyth Country Day. I'm Sydney Hopkin, and I'm also a sophomore at Forsyth Country Day. I'm Trinity Sanders, and I'm also a sophomore.
Holy cow, so we could have a repeat.
Yeah.
Both your coaches staying around for the next season, right? Yeah, okay. Wouldn't miss on that one. Well, folks, if I can, let me read this proclamation, if I could, please. Whereas athletics is an important aspect of human development that helps improve body and mind, and whereas excellence in any sport requires countless hours of practice and a high degree of commitment, and whereas Forsyth Country Day School girls varsity basketball team has distinguished itself locally and regionally with his dedication and accomplishments. And whereas the success of this team is directly attributable to each team member and support of family and friends, and whereas, there's only a couple, 3 more of these, and whereas members of this team of extraordinary talent, this is a good part about you, extraordinary talented and dedicated athletes out of numerous teams across the region and the state successfully competed for the NCI SSA State Championship Division III, and demonstrated their skills and talents exceedingly well by winning first place in the championship tournament. And whereas members of the Forsyth Country Day School represented the school in a positive manner by displaying outstanding sportsmanship, positive attitude, and dedicated teamwork, now, therefore, let it be known that the town of Louisville and each citizen of our town shall honor the many achievements of the Forsyth Country Day School girls varsity basketball team, and that this proclamation is delivered with the town's best wishes for continued success. Given by the Louisville Town Council on this 11th day of April 2019. Council members, we have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Franklin makes the motion and Mr. Smith makes the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I guess that means you get a proclamation. Very good, Coach. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations to you all. You want to get I said Stacy wants to get a picture here. I always want to get in the most opportune place where my best attributes are shown.
Congratulations, ladies.
We good? No, you're good. Very good. Well, we are indeed fortunate. I guess to borrow Garrison Keillor's phrase when he would talk about Lake Wobegon, where all of our women are strong, our men are good looking, and all of our children are above average. We can certainly say that about our kids in Louisville. They are indeed above average and make us proud every day. My next presentation is an old friend of this council and an old friend of the town. And I don't use that, I guess I use that word both chronologically in terms of your existence on earth, as well as the time in which you've served this town. Ed Racklin, come on up here. Ed, you were one of the first people I met when I came to town. And Ed is probably one of the best thinkers that I've met while I've been in Louisville. I know periodically, in fact, through these years, Ed will call up and say, Mayor, have you thought about this? And chances are I hadn't thought about it. And he said, well, you need to think about it. And most of the time, he's been right on point, and he's given me a great deal of insight, and he's been of service to our Planning Board, our Utilities Committee. What else have you been on? Planning Board, Utilities Committee? MSD, that's right, MSD at the Runnymede, Willamede. Mm-hmm. And, let's see, what else?
Swimming club.
Swimming club, tennis club, and he's the only person I know that has a TV named after him. If you go ever to one of our conference or one of our planning sessions, you'll see the big widescreen TV up there. That was at the insistence of Mr. Racklin, who said, you got to get a TV to present this stuff. You got to get a TV. And so we did, and we named it Ed TV.
In the minutes sometimes.
And it is in the minutes sometimes. It's my pleasure to present to you on behalf of the Louisville Town Council. I'm one of the reasons Louisville is a great place to live. Thank you, Ed, for all you do and all you'll continue to do.
The greatest honors that I've ever had. I want everybody to know that. And very quickly, may I say that having done little TV productions myself, at the end of the TV program, you usually see something called credits, where they roll the names of the people who helped make the program the very best. Well, there are people that deserve credits. I didn't do this alone. These other folks did it. And the first credits I'd like to give to the folks back behind me. The town council, they work year after year to bring a lot of programs to this town and keep us on the right road. And make us a town that's got to be the best in North America, I think, and I've traveled the world. Number two, the folks here called staff. nothing gets done without them. They keep, as they say in Europe, the trains running on time. And last but almost not least, my good old friend here. When he came to town with his lovely wife Fanny years ago, he had to build his own company. And while he was building it into a very fine company, which is now known from here to Raleigh, by the way, he's too modest to tell you that and never will, he always had time to do something for Louisville. Every day he did something. Little did he know the path would take him here. Not next to me, but I mean here where he stands. But also next to me, thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
And the very last thing is, you folks out there, I've come to realize that it's the citizens of the town that bring so many ideas forward and filter it up to the staff people like I do and call them every once in a while. I'm a real pain in the ass for doing it, but
We'll bleep that out later, so it's okay.
it's really required, and you folks deserve all these honors, so thank you so much for this. I thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Pardon? Okay. Yvonne Hall, you're right there. Please come up. You know, you've heard the council talk a lot about our committees and boards and all the things they do for this town, and we wouldn't really be a town without them, because they make us what we are through their dedication and their volunteerism, and certainly the time that you all give to on your various committees. Yvonne has been involved with the Beautification Committee for 15 years, and during that time you've seen her handiwork around town. You see it in the plantings around Town Hall. You see it in the plantings along the sidewalks. You see it in the plantings at Jack Warren Park. You see it in the banner program. And if your house has ever been identified as one of the most beautiful yards, I was hearing something over here, and I didn't know what it was. One of the most beautiful yards, one of the most best decorated yards at Christmas time, you know it's her and her committee that makes that happen. You are a wonderful inspiration to me. Yvonne I've called her up on occasion. I said, Yvonne, what would you think about this? And if she thinks it's a good idea, I'm good. But oftentimes she'll say, Mike, that just stinks, and we're not going to do that. And which is wonderful, because generally speaking, when we talk through it a little bit, it probably had a little smell to it anyway. So, Yvonne, thank you so much for all you do. I wish you all the best of luck. Don't be a stranger, please.
I won't.
Good to see you.
For the past 15 years, it has really been a joy to work with such wonderful people on the Beautification Committee and the staff and the best mayor, who's always been there.
Checks in the mail.
And it's going to be one of the most wonderful memories, and I will never forget the support and all from the town council. And Hank, I'm going to still come and pick on you. But I just want to thank everyone for their support.
Thanks, Yvonne.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. One last presentation tonight. Wayne Hall, come on up here.
I don't think
He's not here? He's not in the back? I thought he was in the back. Well, we will handle Wayne's presentation for him, but we're recognizing Wayne for his 9 years as part of the Parks and Recreation and Cultural Development Board. If you really want to try to find a volunteer to do something in town, you call Wayne. He's there. From helping to set up at our events and our plays and virtually anything that the Parks and Recreation Committee does, Wayne is at the center of it. Once again, these are why Louisville is such a great place that it is, because we have individuals like Yvonne and Wayne who make us what we are. So we'll make sure this gets in the hands of Wayne, and we appreciate his contributions and support of the town. Oh, I guess. Very good. As you all can tell, this is a group effort when it comes to pointing the mayor in the right direction and making sure he has his shoes tied and he picks up his glasses and all those. I do appreciate everybody's making me stay on the true path. Very good. This is the first of two opportunities tonight.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Town manager needs to make a presentation of the budget next on the agenda.
Did I skip over that? There we are. Hank, you're on, buddy.
Honorable Mayor and Town Council, as Town Manager, I am pleased to present the proposed general fund budget of $4,652,880 for fiscal year 2019-2020. The budget as proposed includes maintaining the current tax rate of 17.7 cents per $100 of valuation. This budget shows an increase in the general fund budget from the previous year budget, as adopted on July 1st, 2018, of $126,637, or 2.8%. This budget is proposed as balanced with $78,010 in fund balance from the general fund. This fund balance appropriation represents the costs associated with projects that are not recurring operational costs. The tax base for the town as of April 1st, 2019 was $1,399,846,866, producing estimated ad valorem tax revenue of $2,403,400, with 1 cent of the tax rate equaling approximately $135,785. The town of Louisville also collects a levy for a municipal service district. The current tax rate is 4.5 cents per $100 evaluation. The proposed tax rate for the municipal service district for fiscal year 2019-2020 is unchanged at 4.5 cents per $100 evaluation. The Town Council has been diligent and used sound financial planning to continue its commitment to the citizens of Louisville to provide the highest standard of services. They have done this while maintaining a level of fund balance to secure future funding opportunities. The unassigned fund balance was $5,405,088 as of June 30, 2018. This represents a fund balance of approximately 116.17%, based on the projected upcoming fiscal year budget for 2019-2020. This measure is well within the guidelines established in the comprehensive financial management policy adopted by the Town Council in this current fiscal year. As for another notable point for the economic outlook of the town, the North Carolina League of Municipalities is predicting increases in sales tax revenue in the state. They report that near-term economic projections are generally positive and consumer confidence in the economy is high. The town of Louisville stays committed to the continuation of all of its existing services for the upcoming fiscal year, to include parks and recreation, finance, administration, planning and zoning, public works, residential garbage and recycling, stormwater management, community policing, and beautification. All services are proposed to continue at current service delivery levels for the upcoming fiscal year. The town has 4 capital reserve funds. Currently, annual appropriation to all of these funds total $405,000. At the Town Council Capital Planning Session recently held on February 2nd, Council reaffirmed its desire to proactively support the development of the downtown area and road and sidewalk improvements throughout the town, as well as its desire to develop future capital facilities such as the new community center. During fiscal year 2017-2018, the Town Council learned that the North Carolina Department of Transportation plans to assume financial responsibility for the remaining work to be done on the Great Wagon Road, to include design, right-of-way acquisition, and construction. As construction of the Great Wagon Road progresses, we anticipate that the town of Louisville will participate financially with the North Carolina Department of Transportation on enhancements such as sidewalks, trees, and streetlights. Funding for all capital reserves is proposed to remain as follows: Stormwater Capital Reserve, $95,000. GWR Right-of-Way Construction Capital Reserve, $115,000. Sidewalks, Bike Paths, Greenways Capital Reserve, $25,000. Municipal Buildings Land Capital Reserve, $170,000, totaling $405,000. The capital projects that remain in the budget during the fiscal year 2019-2020 are as follows. Active projects include Great Wagon Road right-of-way and construction, Gateway Project, Heritage Drive Regional Stormwater Pond Number 1, non-active projects, JWP Maintenance Facility Playground Expansion. In order to keep up with the development of the downtown area, the town has decided to move forward with the suggestion made in its 2006 stormwater study. Council authorized the Heritage Drive Regional Stormwater Pond Number 1 Capital Projects Fund. The project authorizes the purchase of land and/or easements, design and engineering, the construction of a BMP or best management practice wet pond for stormwater treatment in the downtown area of the town of Louisville. The pond will be located just southwest of the intersection of Shallowford Road and Heritage Drive. The town will continue design work on the Gateway project along the right-of-way, and construction work will work in the upcoming fiscal year. I'm tongue-tied there. This project is a roadway project to make improvements from the Highway 421 interchange to Williams Road, with improvements continuing on Williams Road between the interchange and the newly constructed roundabout at Shallowford Road and Williams Road. This is a project utilizing STPDA funds. The project has an estimated cost of $1.5 million. The project will be paid with 80% of the expected cost coming from federal aid, with 20% match from the town. The town's contribution is expected to be approximately $298,936. The town also has been approved for a CMAQ, this stands for Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality project, to extend the sidewalk along Louisville Clemens Road from Jack Warren Park to Leon's Way. The project will be paid for with 80% of the expected cost coming from federal aid, with a 20% match from the town. The total of the project is estimated at $726,645, which includes the town's participation of $145,329. The town has also been awarded funding for another CMAQ project to extend the sidewalk along Louisville Vienna from Riverwood Drive to Robin Hood Road. This, as with the other sidewalk project mentioned above, the project will be paid for with 80% of the expected cost coming from federal aid, with 20% match from the town. The total cost of the project is estimated at $1,234,411, which includes the town's participation of $246,882. The town has also been awarded funding for the construction of a single-lane roundabout at Robin Hood Road and Louisville Vienna Road. The project will include necessary sidewalk connections at the roundabout and streetscape, lighting, and landscaping. The project has an estimated cost of approximately $1,270,000. The project will be paid for with 80% of the expected cost coming from federal aid, with the 20% match from the town. The town's contribution is expected to be approximately $254,000. In the 2017-2018 fiscal year, the Planning Board, working with staff and the Town Council, completed a planning process that has resulted in the presentation and acceptance by Council of the Northeast Area Plan. This plan has been years in development ahead of a new public middle school in the vicinity of the intersection of Louisville Vienna and Robin Hood Road. This new school is anticipated to have a significant impact on the growth and development of the northeast area of this town. This plan serves as a template or guide to help plan for and guide future developmental and transportation activities in this area. Now that this has been completed, the Planning Board and staff desire to engage in work related to two core project areas. The first area would be preliminary work ahead of the town's next 5-year comprehensive plan update. The second area of work would provide what they feel are significant enhancements to Louisville's Unified Development Ordinance. It is envisioned that all of the proposed work, once completed, would go to improve the overall land development processes for the town. The budget, as proposed, contains proposed fundings in support to facilitate this work. In conclusion, this budget reflects the desire of the council to address the needs of the town while being cognizant of economic conditions. Choices made and expenditures were done to meet the priorities and goals that the council established during the year with the assistance of numerous advisory boards and committees. During the next few weeks, the town council will meet to deliberate the proposal set forth and make adjustments as needed. I would like to thank the staff for their assistance with the development of this budget and the town council for their continued guidance and support. Final adoption of the budget will be scheduled for the council meeting in June. If I may be of any assistance, please feel free to contact me. Sincerely, William H. Perkins, Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Ladies and gentlemen, the manager made reference to, over the next few weeks, we'll be deliberating this budget and discussing it in quite detail. If you'll go to our website, louisvillenc.net, you will find the dates for those meetings, for the budget deliberations, and the public is certainly invited. We encourage you to attend. This is your money, and hopefully come out and watch us spend it wisely. So you all are invited. Any questions for Hank before we move on? This coming up shortly will be the first opportunity tonight, one of 5 you'll have to address the council. 2 of these will be just general public forums, one now and one at the end of the meeting. And then we will have a public hearing on Pegram Landing. We will have a evidentiary hearing on La Sarra, and we will have a public hearing on a Reynolds Road annexation. So if you are here to speak of any one of the 3 public hearings, or the 2 public hearings or the evidentiary hearing, please hold your comments to that time. Otherwise, if you have other comments, please come up and share them with the council now. If you'll state your name and address. I believe we have one person signed up, Mr. Todd Yenor. Todd, did I get close?
Yes.
Yenor?
Members of the council, good evening. My name is Todd Yenyer. I'm a father of a young boy here who was born virtually deaf. And we're doing all we can to provide him with everything that he needs to survive and to thrive with hearing loss. We have the best, at least as far as we know, the best pediatric audiologists. He had some of the best hearing impaired instructors in school. And after school, we're doing at least 2 hours of homework and therapy with him daily, except for Friday nights. That's just one night off. Jaden's a 2nd grader, and he's getting more and more active outdoors in our neighborhood. And we're concerned because our neighborhood does not have, we live just off of Sequoia Drive here. And concerned because there's, as a little kid on a bicycle on a street with no sidewalks in our neighborhood, there's cars that drive by, and it's easy for a child to get 15, 20 feet ahead of you, and typically you could just say, "Hey, Jaden!" and he would hear you. There's a car coming, but he cannot hear me. And it's a danger to his life, to his safety. I mean, either I keep him on a leash, or I hold his arm when he's riding his bike, or there is another option, and that is to have signage put up letting drivers know that there is a deaf child that may be in the street. That kid that you think can hear you coming may not hear you coming. And it's a simple fix to try to solve this issue. I won't get into the history of my requests, but I did find something on the North Carolina Department of Transportation Division of Highways Traffic Engineering and Safety Systems branch, which is the standard practice for deaf child area signage. And I did forward this information to the parties involved with my previous communications. And it does say right here, it will be the standard practice of NCDOT based on engineering judgment to install deaf child area signs. Signs shall be located and erected according to the standards of the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which is the manual that I was told that Louisville Township must adhere to. I was told that this sign is not included in that manual, but yet I have documentation that was available to a lay person like myself on the internet to say that this sign is accepted, and I would like these signs erected surrounding the area in which my child plays so that we don't have a catastrophic incident happen.
Thank you, Mr. Yenor.
I'd also like to just, one more thing. The mission of the Public Works Department, and I got this off of an email that was sent to me, is to preserve and improve the quality of life, and I suspect that that means life in itself, for town residents and visitors through services that are responsive, effective, efficient, and responsible. And I think it would be irresponsible to not allow a citizen to have a sign put up to alert drivers that there may be a child that cannot hear them. And yes, it may be an eyesore to some people, but it may be a lifesaver for this young man.
Thank you, Mr. Senor. We actually have, and I believe the manager, if he wants to elaborate more on it, we have 2 current requests for specialized signage in Louisville, and I believe our next tact on this is to pass it on to our Public Safety Committee. Is that where we're going with this?
We certainly can for their advice or their consultation.
We've heard you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak during this first public forum? Hearing none?
And there's one.
Yes, sir. Well, please come up. You've never been so shy before to sit there and wave your hand. Come on up, Ms. Fry.
Something just did occur to me. I'm Susan Fry, 165 Will Austin Court in Louisville. Just briefly, I saw on the website today, the mayor had a brief video about the surveys that are going out. And I just wanted to mention them, the town surveys, because I'm sitting by my mailbox just waiting, and I'm just hoping that everyone who gets their town survey takes the time. This is your chance to be heard. And I just hope that everybody reads it, fills it out, and sends it back. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a plug we were going to do later, but you just did it for us. Good. Anyone else wish to speak tonight at the first public forum? You'll have another opportunity at the end of the meeting, and there's also forms on the back of the table should you wish to leave written comments for us. With that, Stacy, we'll come up to our first public hearing tonight on Pegram's Landing, and you have the stage.
Joyce, if you will please pull up the PowerPoint. Appreciate it. Good evening, council. Tonight, the first public hearing before you is a request for a rezoning. The ordinance number is 2019018. And Joyce gets, go ahead to the second slide, Joyce. You can see before you the PIN numbers that are involved. For the record, they are 5885-91-7317. The second property is 5885-97-5413. The third is 5885-91-6553. And the last is 5895-01-1273. Those are the 4 properties that this request entails. The request is to rezone a property from RS9, which is a residential single-family district for a minimum lot size of 9,000 square feet, to RM12S. That's residential multifamily, maximum 12 units per acre for a multifamily development. The S means that there is a site plan tied to this. At the March 13th, 2019 meeting, the planning board voted to recommend approval of the rezoning to the town council by a 4-2 vote. If you'll go ahead. This next map, just outlined in yellow, you can tell the 4 properties that are involved. They are located on Stires Ferry Road along Pegram Farm Road. So the request for rezoning is for 60 units. It is an apartment complex that would include an office, clubhouse, a playground area. The site does have the available infrastructure to support the density of the development. I would add that this is a second phase. It's Pegram Landing Phase 2. The first phase was approved back in May 2018 on a neighboring property. It does meet the intent of the comprehensive plan and the Forsyth County Legacy Plan. I wanted to include that in the planning board, they included one condition in their approval. That was for an additional internal connection be made. You can see that on your site plan before you. Those connections are made between phase 1 and 2, totaling 2 connections between the 2 developments. And Joyce, if you will, thank you. You can see the 2 connections there. The planning board also did voice their concerns about the timeliness that it takes for the NCDOT to get feedback to us regarding our site plans and our proposals that we send them for comments. We did receive comments from them this week from Jeff Munkus with NCDOT that stated there would be a required median put along Stires Ferry Road in front of the entrance for Phase 2. That's the phase that you would be looking at tonight, and that would hinder them, not really hinder them, but only allow them to have a right-in, right-out access. They would not have full movement access. So to come in, they would not be able to make a left-out or a left-in because they would be required to place a median on Stires Ferry Road to try to mitigate that traffic. So if you have any questions, I'm available to answer those, and we do also have the developer here tonight that is available to speak as well.
Very good. Before we open our public hearing, any questions for Stacy?
Stacy, just a clarification. So all 4 of those existing properties are currently zoned RS9,
Yes, sir.
and it's a total with all of them together, it's 5 acres.
Right.
So I just want to make the point, because I think sometimes people don't realize this, is that currently there's the ability to put 45 units on that property without us doing anything.
Right.
Okay, so I just want people to understand that. I think a lot of people just think it's the way it was and the way it will be, but
Yeah,
that's what's currently allowed,
Right, that 9,000 square foot would allow one house per 9,000 square foot
or 5
of
or
the total 5 acres.
9 acres.
Stacy, I've got a question for you. You just mentioned the median in front of the entrance for Phase 2. In the discussion with DOT, are they planning to allow both Phase 1 and Phase 2 to have access to Stires Ferry Road? And then the only, I'm sure there'll be some turn lane and that type stuff, but
Right.
but the median is just for Phase 2.
It is. Phase 1 has already been approved by NCDOT for full access. They do have to, and Charlie can back me up on this, but they do have to put in a right slip, a right turn lane for traffic, and then also some different markings for a left turn lane into Phase 1. But then Phase 2, they would not be able to have full access for this second driveway cut for
Okay,
Phase 2.
all right, thank you. I just wanted a bit of clarification for that.
Any other questions for Stacy?
Can we go back to the original map?
The site plan.
Yes.
Is that large enough? Is that the one you want?
Yes, I was thinking, where's the street across the street? Is it at the first one or at the second one?
If you show the other map, it will show that.
Yeah, it's at the
Joyce.
first one.
Yeah, right there. You can see it.
It's across from the
Kenny
first
Road.
entrance.
Right there.
Yeah.
So is that where the median will start for phase, approximately, for Phase 2?
I'm not 100% sure. There's not been plans or anything drawn yet, as far as, it's just what the DOT would require. But with full access being allowed at the Phase 1 entrance, I would make a good assumption that it's not going to hinder any access for Kenny Road.
What's the time frame on Phase 2? Upon completion of Phase 1, I'm assuming?
Just to answer that question for you.
And then I have one more, and it is the length of drive for that first one, for this Phase 2. I notice that's a long runway effect, which we don't have that we didn't approve in Phase 1. Does that meet our current access management that Phase 2's distance?
The measurement would be for the first, like technically kind of for the first intersection. That's where the measurement would come in, not necessarily the whole thing. You have to have a certain amount of feet for that first intersection is kind of what counts.
No, I'm talking this length.
Right. We go to the first one.
So you just go to the first intersection to the left?
Yeah, that measurement, and then another measurement would start for the second half.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So this is all one, and we stop here and we remeasure.
Right. Because there's a break there.
Okay, so we have basically a runway effect, is what we used to refer to it as, that it's a long stretch through the community. There's no calming device or
To
safety
my
measures
knowledge,
put in place.
There's not a calming device or anything other than, I don't think there's not a calming device or anything that's going to be put in there.
Okay. Thank you.
Mrs. Walker, can you make this current slide just a little bigger for us, please? So we can see what Mrs. Mock is referring to.
Oh, dear. Okay.
Ask her to do
My
something
fingers. My
that
fingers.
involves technology. Yeah, that's true.
That one?
I don't know if you can.
I can just turn right here. Sandra, you were referring to which road?
I'm referring to this section here. It's not something normally
Right,
we would
right.
allow to happen, that you would have a straightaway where residents basically would have from this point out,
No,
be able to get up to speed from one end to the other.
Right. A lot of times that counts for an actual road, and this, even though it's named because of the amount of addresses that would come off, it's not actually like a maintained road. It's just a private access for the residents there, like the parking lot would be, through the complex.
So I think that the parking, because there's parking like that along it head-on, that's considered traffic calming. One of the things they'll do on roads when they do parallel parking, part of the reason why they do that is it slows all the traffic down. And so that's why, I understand what Sandra's saying, but that's why this doesn't apply, is because we got all that parking all the way through there.
You got two, that adjoining property, you got two access points in it too, in that
Right.
road.
Right, yeah. That, one we made, we requested, staff requested for connectivity, and the planning board actually requested a second connection.
Very good. We'll have another opportunity for council discussion in a moment. Any other questions for Stacy? Very good. With that, we will open up the public hearing. Is there anybody here this evening to speak in support of or in opposition to this petition? Anybody here to speak in support of, please come forward, state your name and address.
Charlie Heritage, 7204 West Friendly Avenue, Greensboro, North Carolina. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank y'all for having me tonight. First thing I want to do is just give an update on Phase 1, because folks might want to know. We are currently in the process of closing on the land there. Construction pricing is really high these days, which just means things are, going well in the economy. But so we're in the final negotiations with our contractor on Phase 1, and we hope to close by the end of May, and then we will begin moving dirt on the first phase, hopefully June or July. So take advantage of the summer months. As Stacy mentioned earlier, we did just get an email from Jeff Munkus with DOT. He didn't send a drawing as far as the median. However, it's my understanding, well, first of all, in Phase 1, we are widening the road just a little bit to create a left-in or full access into Phase 1. And because of that, and then because of the drives are, fairly close together, they're recommending, well, not even recommending, they're requiring that Phase 2 is a right in, right out. So with our connectivity between the two phases, this shouldn't be an issue for our residents. There's two ways to get down to the full access, which will help alleviate any congestion within the developments. That median right now is proposed as a 3-foot concrete median down the center of Stowers Ferry Road. Where it will start, I'm not real sure. I believe it probably would start just before our access to Phase 2 to prohibit folks from, trying to zoom across there, cut across. So I'm not sure of that, but that's what I would guess. Phase 2 is pretty much a mirror image of Phase 1. It's 60 units, same bedroom counts, 9 one-bedrooms, 32 bedrooms, 21 three-bedrooms. I know at Planning Board, I believe someone asked as far as the, putting in another 60 units in Louisville. We just had a market study done for this area, and even with Phase 1 and taking that into consideration, with Phase 2, we're only capturing 4.4% of the demand in this area, meaning we could build this thing, we're not going to, but we could build this thing 22 more times within a 5 to 10 mile radius before we met the demand. So we feel like these things will lease up in 7 to 9 months once completed. As far as timeline, how am I doing on time, by the way? Are y'all timing me? Okay.
We're giving a little leeway.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. So as far as timeline, like I said, Phase 1, hopefully begin construction here in the next couple months. It'll take 12 months to build, and then another 7 months to lease up completely. Phase 2 would begin on a similar timeline next summer, so basically a year behind. So this would likely start next summer when Phase 1 is being completed. Let's see. It's a $10 million development, and I think that's all I've got for now.
Very
Be
good.
glad to answer questions. I did bring it's similar to last time, a color rendering of the buildings. Again, they're 3 stories, different materials on the outside, brick, shapes, vertical and horizontal siding, balconies on the front. I will try to surround so y'all can see well. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them, or I'll just go sit down.
We'll come back to you in a second.
Okay, perfect.
Anyone else here this evening wish to speak in support of or in opposition to? Anybody else wish to speak? With that, we'll close the public hearing. Council members, let's discuss. I do have a question, Stacy. Was there any discussion at planning board level or with the developer that de facto, by putting a median in front of the entrance to Phase 2, that for the most part, people are pretty smart about things, and that Phase 2, the entrance to Phase 2 will now, for all intent and purposes, be at Phase 1 because you can make a left in?
For the most part, if they're going out right, or if they're coming from the Winston area going right in, then they would be able to utilize the access for Phase 2. But if they want to make left-hand turns, they would have to use the access for Phase 1.
So I guess the only caution that I raise here, if I am living on any of the apartments in Phase 1, particularly near either one of those cut-throughs, I'm going to be anticipating 120 to 150 vehicles twice a day coming in front of my unit, because people's nature is they will use the shortest distance. They won't go up the road, turn around, and come back. We will hear about it in some future date, but and probably this is a question that I maybe also want to pose to the developer. Does that cause you pause, sir?
That's a great question. The only you bring up a good point. I mean, there's a lot of I think these things generate about 400 trips a day, each side, versus retail's like 2,500 a day. So there will be, I would imagine, some peak times where folks are coming out, but most of the time it's really just going to be people that are going north on Stires Ferry Road. So you could probably cut that 120 in half, because if folks are going grocery shopping, they're going to go south. If they're going to restaurants, they're more than likely going to go south.
I hope they come north, because our stores are in the north.
Well, I'm thinking,
That's a chide there.
yeah, no, but I'm thinking south and then turn right on,
Turn around to- down
turn
to
right on
Lewis.
Louisville
Okay.
Clemens. Yeah, not across the bridge.
Okay, good.
No, we'll encourage them to eat on this side of the bridge.
Thank you.
We're going to put a median in there to drive them our way.
So, but with that in mind, because of the demand, because of such a strong demand, I mean, you know, again, 60 units is only capturing 4%. I think that having a nice place to live, brand new, is gonna outweigh, you know, having to go down and make a U-turn.
Again, this is a state road, so we don't really have anything to say about it.
Right.
But do you know what the length is of how much stacking is there for the left turn in?
The left turn in for phase one.
Yeah, coming
I'm
from-
not sure. They do know that we had a phase two in the works.
Okay.
And we just got phase one, which in the process of being permitted right now. So I'm not sure about the stacking on that.
Well, if appropriate, certainly let the record show that the mayor is concerned about the stacking distance, particularly in the afternoon period of time when folks are coming home from work, because that potentially could stack all the way back up, and what you end up having is the roadway blocked from all traffic for periods of time there, because that's only a two-lane road with a turn lane.
Sure. No, that's a great point. And, you know, to that, I would say also that, again, it's, Mr. Zinger made a good point earlier where it's zoned, not that somebody would do this, or there's not plans to do that, but, you know, you could put 45 houses on there and that would have the same issue.
Yeah. Well, there's allowable, then there's feasible. So those are two completely
Very
different
true,
things. Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
And how many of these units are 2 and 3 bedrooms?
2 bedrooms are 30 and 3 bedrooms 21.
And the only reason I ask that is because, again, we're talking traffic there, and all of the schools are to your left.
Right.
Every school that feeds it, the elementary, the middle, and the high school, all is going to require a left-hand turn out of that neighborhood.
Right.
So they're all, your 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, if they have kids, are going to go to the first entrance to make that left, because all the schools are in that direction. They are all north.
Yeah, and you know, traffic's kind of a reactionary thing, so it is a state-maintained road. The only thing I could say is that, you know, the DOT would probably look at it and say, we've got a lot of folks turning left. We need to do something else. We need to, you know, make this left turn out easier or widen the whole. I don't know what the future plans for Stars Ferry Road are, but it's definitely a good thing to maybe even ask them.
Any other comments, council members? Any other thoughts?
Hank's raising his hand.
Yes, sir.
Sir, for each one of these properties, I guess, since they're in phases, they're both going to have stormwater control B&Bs?
Yes, both of them will have their own separate B&Bs.
Okay, thank you.
Your total estimate is 10 million for both phases, 1 and 2?
10 million for phase 2.
2, okay.
Yeah, phase 1 is right around 9 million.
So 19 for total.
Any other comments, council members?
One more, do you have other properties that you've worked with, or?
So I just started South Creek 2 years ago, and I worked with a former company for 11 years and did properties throughout the state. My currently, I'm getting ready to close on Pegram Phase 1, and then I've got one down in Havelock that we're closing on, and one up in Hendersonville, so we'll close 3 of them this summer. But as far as
This will be your first build-out.
this will be, yes. Now, my contractor, which is Weaver out of Greensboro, they've built several. And our management company manages 10,000 units in the southeast. So, and I actually did Shallowford Reserve way back when I first got out of college. Did a couple of those townhomes down there.
Any other questions? Any additional comments? With that, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
I'll second it.
Mr. Singer makes a motion, Mr. Franklin makes a second. Any additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Please be a good citizen. Okay. Stacy, Renolda Road, please.
Joyce, if you will be so kind. Council, for 1181 Reynolds Road, there are two things for you to consider before you. The first public hearing is ordinance 2019012. That is a request to extend corporate limits of the town of Louisville to include 1181 Reynolds Road. The PIN number is property also identified as 5884-59-1356 for the record. And if you will go to the third slide, the next one. No, there you go. You can see the property outlined in yellow is a single-family residence, and that is the property owners requesting annexation into the town of Louisville.
Any questions for Stacy?
I do. Stacy, I rode by there today. I saw the sign in the yard, so I'm familiar with this particular piece of property. On either side of it, are those homes in Louisville currently?
No, sir, they are not.
Okay, so this is contiguous because across the road,
Correct.
that lot directly across is in Louisville, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Stacy? If not, we will go ahead and open the public hearing. This is a public hearing on a annexation request for 1181 Renolda Road. Is there anybody here to speak in support of or in opposition to? Anyone to speak in support of or in opposition to? With that, we'll close the public hearing. Council members, any additional discussion? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion approved.
Second.
Mr. Smith makes the motion, Mr. Zinger makes the second. Any additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, that's unanimous. And folks, welcome to the town of Louisville. We love having you. We love when folks want to be part of our town.
Need a motion to do the zoning jurisdiction?
Yes, the next thing on the agenda, ordinance 2019014. That is a request now that the property has been annexed into the town. By general statute, we need to accept zoning for that. Currently, the property is RS 30 in Forsyth County zoning jurisdiction. The request is to accept zoning for RS 30 for the town of Louisville zoning jurisdiction. The planning board did vote to recommend approval to the council at their last night's meeting, April 10th.
Council members, any question for Stacy?
Do we have to have I'm just looking at,
Yeah, this is.
okay, I wasn't clear there, so need public hearing.
Any additional question for Stacy? All righty. With that, this is a public hearing on changing the jurisdiction from 1181 Reynolds Road from Forsyth County, RS 30, to the town of Louisville, RS 30. Anyone here to speak in support of or in opposition to? Anyone at all? Very good. We'll close the public hearing. Council members, what's your pleasure?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Mock makes the motion, Mr. Zinger makes the second. Any additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Okay, Stacy, you want to lead us into this one, and this is going to be a tag team, I think, among our staff members.
Yes. I'll let Joyce have a chance to get the PowerPoint up. This one's a little bit different tonight. The Lake at Lasar, Phase 2, Section 5. There are three things that council will consider tonight. The first one is a rezoning, this contingent on annexation. The second one is an evidentiary hearing for special use permit for a planned residential development, also contingent on annexation. And then finally would be the actual acceptance of the property into the town of Louisville. So first before you is the rezoning. Joyce, if you'll, you can see the PIN numbers before you in the essence of time. Those PIN numbers. It is a total of 3 properties and 2 properties that are portions of those properties. The request is to rezone these properties from RS 40, Forsyth County zoning jurisdiction, to RS 40S, the town of Louisville zoning jurisdiction. The planning board did vote unanimously to recommend approval to the town council at their March 13th, 2019 planning board meeting. And Joyce, if you will go forward one more, you can see the map. The outlined portions, or the property outlined in yellow, that is the portions that will be accepted for a rezoning tonight. Remember, contingent on the annexation.
Any questions for Stacy? Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on changing the planning jurisdiction from Forsyth County to the town of Louisville. Anyone here to speak in support of or in opposition to? Anyone to speak in support of or opposition to? With that, we'll close the public hearing. Council? Comments? Questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Franklin makes the motion, Mr. Zinger makes the second. Any additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. That is unanimous. Bo, let me back up real quick. I want to be clear on that last motion. That last motion was, I believe, included that contingent upon the annexation being approved.
Yeah, that's fine.
Very good. Mr. Zinger, you'll accept that addition?
Absolutely.
Let the language reflect that.
Councilman Half.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is a planned residential development, as Stacy has already, I believe, indicated or referenced. Planned residential developments within the town of Louisville are required to apply for a special use permit, and this special use permit is granted by the elected body. Normally, we have special use permits that are granted by our Board of Adjustment, which, by the way, meets on the fourth Tuesday at 6:30. So we'd love to have you come out to some of those meetings as well. But this one is a little different because the council is sitting in an unusual capacity for this council, and that is you're sitting in what's called a quasi-judicial capacity, meaning you're sitting as a finder of fact and a judge and a jury in this case. And that means that you're going to be considering evidence that's to be presented to you this evening from both staff and then perhaps by the applicant and others who may be interested in this matter. Let me first ask the council if any of you have had any communications from anyone in favor of or in an opposition to this planned residential development special use permit prior to tonight. If that's the case, I don't hear anyone speaking up, so we'll assume that's not the case. Are each of you, is there anything that might affect your ability to hear the evidence tonight and to make unbiased findings of fact, and we'll talk about what those are. Actually, I think you have them before you. Finding of facts at the conclusion of the evidence. Is there anything to keep you from doing that? I don't see anything. Let the record reflect that nothing appears that would create any difficulty in the council members considering this. I do ask that you keep an open mind until all the evidence from both sides is presented. In a moment, you'll have a staff report from Stacy Talbert. But as you're considering all of this, and for the good of the council, who I believe you have these four findings of fact that you'll be hearing evidence about, for the benefit of those in attendance this evening, the four findings of fact that must be made and are found affirmatively in favor of the applicant in order for the special use permit to be granted are as follows. First, that the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the application and plan as submitted and approved. And in that case, that burden would be upon any opponents to make that showing. Second, that the use meets all of the required conditions and specifications, and that burden is upon the applicant to make that showing to you. In this case, I know that there is an exemption being sought, and that would also, the grounds for the exemption would need to be shown that burden would be on the applicant as well. Third, that the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property, or that the use is a public necessity, and the burden on that would be upon any opponents to this special use permit. And finally, that the location and character of the use, if developed according to the application and plan is submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and in general conformity with the Louisville Comprehensive Plan. And in that case, that burden is upon the applicant to make that showing. Following the close of all of the evidence this evening, any motion to grant the special use permit will be deemed to include all of the above findings in the affirmative. that is to say, in favor of the applicant. Any motion to deny the special use permit will require a specific finding as to which of the required findings was not met.
Thank you, Bo. Stacy, your presentation, please.
If you will move forward, Joyce. Ordinance
But I
2019.
need to, for the record, did I need to open the hearing, or is it just assumed that we are in a hearing?
Staff presentation will be prior to the public.
Thank you.
Ordinance 2019-020 for the special use permit tonight. The request is for a planned residential development for 6 large lots on an existing private street, LaSara Camp Court. The developer does request relief tonight. In our PRD standards, the access requirements require that for every 1 foot of linear center line they have an equal 1 foot of either sidewalk, greenways, bikeways, trails of that matter. The applicant in this PRD request does meet the standard for the linear foot. The only standard that he does not meet is that the natural trails throughout the entire subdivision does not meet ADA standards. So he will be asking for relief for that tonight. I will leave that up to Mr. Wilcox to actually request that. Town staff is of the opinion that the request in general is in general conformance with the town's comprehensive plan and the legacy for the area. Joyce, if you will move forward. You can see the site plan in front of you. The dark green areas that you see are open space areas that will be added to the development. The areas in yellow that you see are existing open space. Some of those open spaces are already allocated for the Forsyth County planned residential development that exists there for the lake at LaSara. So moving ahead, the planning board at their March 13th, 2019 meeting, they voted unanimously to recommend approval of the planned residential development to the town council. They included the 7 findings of fact that they were able to find at their meeting. You can see those ahead of you as well. And then along with the 7 findings, the planning board recommended to include the staff's place recommendations. Those recommendations are that all comments from the technical review committee shall be remedied. 2, a staff change shall be completed with the City County Planning and Development Services Department to reallocate open space required for the county-approved planned residential development to a new location prior to the signing of the final plat. All that means is that the open space, some of it is going to be deemed as a lot now, some lot frontage along LaSara Camp. That location of open space is going to be reallocated. We have talked with staff at the City County Planning and Development Services. In order for that to be approved, we just have to submit for that staff change to take place. But we will make sure that that take place to make sure he has all the allocated open space for the county portion of the PRD as well as the town of Louisville, that he meets all those requirements prior to the signing of the final plat. And then last, that the PRD pedestrian access requirements regarding the ADA compliance are waived by the elected body.
Mr. Mayor, if I might interrupt, I think I misspoke and failed to indicate that I do need to swear in Ms. Tolbert.
So we do have to open the public hearing. That's what I had in my notes. Thank you. So before the swearing in occurs, we will open the evidentiary hearing. And you've already heard from the first witness, but now we'll swear her in post-testimony.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that any testimony that you have given or will give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Very good. Okay. Council members, any question for Stacy on the presentation? Any questions? Does the
One
applicant-
quick
Yes, sir.
question. The 6 lots still meet the RS 40S planning jurisdiction, correct? Okay.
Does the applicant have any questions for the planner at this time?
Questions for me?
Question? I have no questions of the planner.
Very good. Is there anyone in the audience who may be in opposition to this, have any questions for the planner?
I do want to add, Mr. Mayor, one thing, thanks to our attorney here. In the PRD standards, the relief that the applicant is requesting, the elected body does have that power to grant that waiver. It is in our ordinance in Chapter 2 for pedestrian access compliance. that the elected body is the administrating authority for any ordinances.
That's actually in the second part. I'm sorry, I mismarked that for you. It's under Chapter
D in the subdivision ordinance.
Councilman, you've been demoted to attorney now. Your fallacies, I think.
No. It is. That the elected body does reserve the right to modify or to extend these ordinances as may be deemed necessary to provide reasonable service to the public. So it is your prerogative that you are able to grant that if you so wish.
Very good. Before we hear from the applicant, are there any other questions from anybody in the audience would have for the planner? If not, will the applicant please come forward and be sworn in?
Place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand. You solemnly swear that any testimony you'll give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir. I do.
State your name and address.
My name is Lang Wilcox, Lumen L. Wilcox Jr., actually, 1210 Forest Wood Drive in lovely Louisville. I had no idea I was going to challenge you all this much with this kind of an effort to go through this, but appreciate your patience in going through this thing. As you've seen on the site plan that we've provided, the idea behind LaSara and the letter that I had created for you, we've created large lots, but we are doing the PRD so that we can allocate large areas of open space that take in and connect all of our trails throughout the neighborhood. When we first permitted, and you know, I'm repeating myself for the public, but you all have a letter in front of you that outlines what we went through when we were initially doing the lake at LaSara through Forsyth County. And in that, we exchanged our sidewalk requirements for our nature trails throughout the subdivision. If you all have any idea what the western part of the county is, and I know you do, the topography is challenging. So in those nature trails, the idea is that they are natural, they are challenging, they're exciting, invigorating for our neighbors, and they enjoy taking their strolls through these. The heads of our trails, in that we do not have curb and gutter, we have ribbon paving. The heads of all the trails are ADA accessible. It's just that when you get onto the trails, the topography is impossible to be able to meet that requirement. This was not a requirement within Forsyth County when we initially rezoned and requested site approval. And it was not a part of what we ended up doing. It wasn't even acknowledged as a requirement when we did the estates at LaSara section that we did in 2014. So we've got some beautiful areas out there that everyone loves to be able to walk on. It's exciting the way that we've been able to connect our trails off of the north end of LaSara Camp Court into our main trail system, which takes you now, circumnavigates the entire lake, takes you through a series of buffered streams where we have perpetual conservation easements on them that then cross the stream on a footbridge and take you over into the estates and down to the river, where we have 17 acres of open space along the shoreline of the Yadkin River and 900 feet of frontage there. So we've got some very neat assets to the neighborhood that center around these trails, and our neighbors use those. And again, ADA was not required for the trail systems itself. They are accessible off of the roadways, ADA accessible at the heads of the trails. And the only thing that we got into on our commercial aspect of the project was our sales center, community center, homeowners association lodge on the headwaters of the lake. And we have about 150 feet of ADA accessible sidewalks there, handicap parking, signage, ADA accessible kitchen, bathrooms, and decks and ramps up to the clubhouse. And those were our only requirements at the time and up until we did this. So does anyone have any questions?
Actually, I'll ask that question just to make the presentation. Thank you for reminding me to ask questions.
Okay. So all I'm doing is a presentation.
You're all just doing the presentation for right
Okay.
now. Very good. Lang, does that conclude your initial presentation? Very good.
Concludes my initial presentation.
Is there anyone in opposition, who may be in opposition to this, who has questions for the applicant? Anybody who potentially is in opposition to this who has questions for the applicant? All righty, council members, any questions for, now we can ask you questions.
I do have one for. You mentioned that several times the development, the Lake at Luceria, is already underway in the clubhouse and the trails and so forth and so on. This request that's before us tonight really doesn't have a thing in the world to do with that, does it? Because that's in the county.
Except for the estates, which is in the town of Louisville.
Yeah.
And annexed in.
But this is over at the lake.
This is at the lake.
Right.
But it's consistent with what we did in the estates when we were approved in 2014, at the same time that the guidelines were, I guess, were in effect at that time, and they were not made a part of our submittal.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any more questions for the applicant?
Just as a point of clarification, so people can understand the ADA thing, what's the grade regulation? Your issue, I assume, with not making these ADA is the grade.
I would, and all-weather surface.
An all-weather surface, okay.
Yeah, so I think it's, I don't know the percentage. I believe it's like 5% on the grade, but I'm not certain of that. And our trails go anywhere from 20 to 30%. They're intended to be exercise, and we switch back across the hilltops, and they're in natural areas against these natural buffers where any kind of construction through there would and could more than likely cause erosion, and they cross areas where we are unable to construct because of the perpetual buffers that were required by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in preserving all of our streams and lakeshore. So,
My point to that was just if you look at the handicap ramps and you look how long they have to be just to go up 30 inches, it's like 30 feet. It's huge. And so when you're talking about an area that's it's just impossible. It's just impossible. You would have to have, it just is impossible. So that was my only point, so people could understand.
Council members, any more questions for the applicant? Very good. Does the applicant have any additional witnesses he wishes to call?
no, sir.
Very good. Is there anyone, thank you, is there anyone in attendance in opposition to this who wishes to make a presentation? Anyone in opposition who wishes to make a presentation? Very good. How am I doing following the script, bro? Pretty good? Okay, thanks. I'm trainable, I guess. All righty. This will conclude then the presentation of testimony at this evidentiary hearing. Bo, that will take us back to you.
Yes, just a reminder that you'll now be considering the evidence that's been presented. You are to consider the evidence only as it relates to those 4 findings of fact, and I believe you have them before you. But again, for the benefit of those in attendance, 4 findings are that the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the application and plan is submitted and approved, that the use meets all required conditions and specifications, that the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property, or that the use is a public necessity, and that the location and character of the use, if developed according to the application and plan submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and in general conformity with the Louisville Comprehensive Plan. Again, any motion to grant the special use permit will need to include, will include the findings of fact that have just been stated, and then it would need to include, if it's going to be approved, the exemption from the ADA requirement. Answer questions if I know that's fast, but you do have those before you.
Any questions for Bo? With that, before council consideration,
think
I'm sorry,
Mr.
Mr. Franklin, I'm
may have
sorry.
one.
I don't have a question for you. I'd like to get Joyce to back up 2 slides, please, because we went through that. There we go. That one went by pretty fast.
Yeah, those
first time.
7 findings are the planning board's required findings. And they were contained, as I recall, because I was there, in the staff report that was presented to the planning board. They are different ones than you have, because they are the more technical requirements, and you have the more general findings of fact to be made.
I agree with you there. I just wanted to look over that because we went through that real fast the first time.
I
Okay.
did not read those 7.
Yeah. And then the next one after that, please, Joyce.
Sure.
No, one up there.
There we go.
There you go. This is the one, the PDR, the number 3, though, is the one that we will need to actually waive as the elected body for the ADA compliance.
That is correct, and the grounds for waiver, if you're inclined to do it, the stated grounds is that, let me read that whole section. The elected body is the administering authority for any ordinances contained in the subdivision ordinance. PRD is a brand of subdivision, as you're aware. These provisions shall be considered the minimum requirements for the protection of the public health, safety, welfare, and convenience. The elected body reserves the right to modify or to extend these ordinances as may be deemed necessary to provide reasonable service to the public.
Have you covered, Mr. Franklin?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Very good. All righty. Any other questions for Bo? With that, we will close the evidentiary hearing and bring it back to council for discussion or to entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve it and to grant the waiver for the ADA requirement.
Second.
Mr. Zinger, will you accept the amended language
Yes.
contingent upon approval of the annexation?
Yes.
Mr.
As
Smith,
well as the required conditions that are, in addition to number 3, which was mentioned, conditions numbers 1 and 2 also need to be included in the motion.
Okay, so moved. So do I need to repeat that, or we?
I think
Yeah, but
I think
you lost me on this one.
Okay,
that's for
the
sure.
motion would be, as I understand it, and I'm not stating it, I'm stating what I understand to be Mr. Zanger's motion, which is to grant the special use permit with the conditions that are included there, one of which includes the waiver that he's moving to be included. The implied, the ADA waiver, the implied findings of fact were already mentioned that they would be included in that motion.
Very good. Mr. Smith, will you also
Again,
accept?
and finally, contingent upon annexation.
Yeah.
Very good. Mr. Smith,
There
you'll
you
accept that language for
Yes.
a second?
Yeah, I
Yes,
think we
sir.
got it all together now.
Yeah, I think so too. Very good. Any additional discussion? With Mr. Zinger making the motion, Mr. Smith making the second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you, folks, for your patience as we move through that. It was a little different than what we generally do. Now, we've been referring to contingent upon the approval of annexation. So we're now down to that explanation, Stacy.
Yes. Ordinance 2019016 is for a request to extend the corporate limits of the town of Louisville to include the lake at Lasar Phase 2, Section 5.
Uh-oh. Did that one come up? Wait a minute. Hold on.
Oh,
Uh-oh. Did I close it?
that's okay.
Okay.
You guys are leaving just before the really entertaining part, you know that.
The exciting part's
Yeah,
yet to
it's
come.
getting ready to come.
I will mention that this annexation is for the properties that we have been discussing tonight. There is one additional 5-foot strip of land, which is a portion of an additional PIN number, which makes this annexation contiguous to the estates at Lasar, which is the town limits of Louisville.
I think we saw that representation at our briefing.
Yes.
Any questions for Stacy? Very good. Well, I don't have this as a public hearing. I think we're good to go with the motion to accept.
I think
You have to open it. Still have to open it.
we do public hearing, and the criterion is in the best interest of the town.
Okay, very good. Ms. Walker, you and I are going to have to sit down and schmooze a little more on my notes so that I have all the
We
appropriate
did, we
stuff.
did do it for the Reynolds Road annexation.
Very good. So, we'll open a public hearing now. This would be for the annexation of the parcels identified by the town planner at the Lakes at Lucera. Anyone to speak in favor of or in opposition to? Anyone to speak in support of or opposition to? With that, we'll close the public hearing. Council, what's your pleasure?
Motion to accept the annexation.
Second.
Mr. Zinger makes a motion, Mr. Smith makes a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. That is unanimous. You just missed the excitement, ladies. Thank you. Very good, council. That was we did do that in somewhat of a different order. Stacy, great job in preparing that. It took a lot of finesse, I think, to work us through that. Council members, thank you for your indulgence and your patience and attention on that, because it was substantially out of the ordinary that we do in terms of our public hearings. New business. Joyce, you have we need to adopt a resolution regarding state records retention schedule.
Yes, the state has come up with a not really a new idea, but they've decided that they are going to get general record retention schedules out to all of the municipalities every year. So this is the first time we've received this one, and council must always approve these record retention schedules.
Thank you. Any
So-
questions for Joyce? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Franklin makes a motion, Ms. Goldman makes a second. Any additional discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, and that's unanimous. Hank, our sheriff's office contract.
Yes, sir. This is an amendment to a contract that was made effective on July 1st, 2017. What we have currently is a corporal position who supervises 5 deputies. We, as council understands and remembers, we've been under discussions with the sheriff's department to change the corporal position to that of a sergeant's position. And that is what this amendment does. And if approved by council tonight, we'll amend the existing contract for the remainder of the period of the contract to include 1 sergeant and 5 deputies. The contract amendment will become effective on May 1st.
Very good. Any questions for the manager? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Zinger makes a motion, Ms. Goldman makes a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, that's unanimous. And Corporal Stringer, let us be the first to address you as Sergeant Stringer in your new position, and I know you will exercise the new authority granted you, the new position you have with judgment and compassion and consideration for our residents, as you've demonstrated in the past. Congratulations. Very good. Pam, you have a budget amendment for us, please?
Yes, we have ordinance 2019013, amending budget ordinance 2018001 in the amount of $10,500 to increase the budget for legal fees in the governing body department.
Any questions for Pam? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Smith makes a motion, Ms. Goldman makes the second. Any additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, that's unanimous. Hank, you have a play.
Resolution 2019028, authorizing the town manager to award the contract to Visualize Consulting LLC to produce the August 2019 play Bye Bye Birdie for a budgeted amount not to exceed $25,000.
Any questions for the manager? Entertain a motion.
I make a motion.
Second.
Ms. Goldman makes a motion, Mr. Green makes the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, that's unanimous also. Hank, you have an acceptance of a gift of land for us?
Yes, we have Resolution 2019030, accepting land gift of PIN 58885149288.
Any questions for the manager? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Smith makes the motion, Mr. Zinger makes the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is passed gratefully unanimously. Very good. Joyce, you want to, we had a grants committee meeting, you want to give us and I'll ask on Mr. Green in a moment to make the motion, but if you'll just give us the background on that, please.
This is for the Meals on Wheels program. Each year, Senior Services requests of the town to provide meals for some of our residents, and they're requesting $6,000 to do so this year.
Very good. Mr. Green, you chair our grants committee. Any comments, or would you like to pass on the committee's recommendation?
I'll pass on the committee's recommendation. It was approved unanimous to amend budget of $6,000 for Meals on Wheels.
Mr. Green has passed on the committee's recommendation as a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Mock makes the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we moved through this new business rather quickly. Let me assure you, this is not the first time we've seen these items. We have a briefing session the first Thursday of every month, at which time we painstakingly quiz our staff about what these issues mean for the town and for our residents. So we're moving through it quickly because we've been briefed before, and we feel pretty confident that we can move through them quickly tonight. Although we do pause, should any council member wish to discuss them more thoroughly. And in this case, we were fortunate that we had a good understanding and grasp of what we were working with. Thank you. Hank, administrative reports, please.
The first we have is events at Shalford Square and town holidays. Let's see, the 19th of April is Friday. It's Good Friday. Town offices will be closed. Moving forward to April 26th at noon, there will be a movie night for The Incredibles 2 and Girl Scout Bingo before the movie. And then lastly, I will mention on May 11th, at 2 o'clock p.m. starts a concert. The concert is by Trial by Fire. That is a Journey tribute band. It should be a good show.
You said at 2 o'clock?
It's showing 1,400 hours, so unless that's a misprint, that
No, that's the time we reserve the square. I believe it starts around 7:30.
okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Dark.
We have a very powerful projector.
Show up early.
Very good. Hank, your manager report, please.
Okay, for upcoming budget meetings, we do have, I guess it counts as 7 dates penciled in, the first of which was the presentation at tonight's meeting. We'll be meeting this coming Monday on the 15th at 6 o'clock p.m. for our first budget workshop. Following that, on the 22nd of this month, the following Monday, we will be meeting again at 6 o'clock p.m. And then moving forward into May on the 2nd at 6 o'clock p.m., we'll have the third workshop. This will be on Thursday following our briefing. And then if necessary, we will have yet another budget workshop on the 6th of May at 6 o'clock p.m., which is a Monday. And then, let's see, we'll do a budget ordinance final review during briefing on June 6th at 6 o'clock p.m. And then all things go well, we at 7:30 on the 13th of June here at council regular meeting on Thursday, we will have the adoption of the budget.
Any questions, Frank, on the budget? Once again, ladies and gentlemen, you are encouraged and urged to attend any of these budget meetings. I think you'll find them very entertaining.
Okay, moving forward, we will make note, this was discussed last week at our briefing. We've been engaging in soliciting, I guess, proposals for a request for qualifications for architectural design firms to work with the town on a future community center. Where we are right now in this process is that we have a recommended design architectural firm, ADW, and what we are planning on them bringing is a pre-planning contract, which would be a smaller contract on the front end of potential design work as a part of Phase 2. The pre-planning contract would be sort of to work with the town to do site analysis and estimations for programming and the ultimate size of the proposed community center for the future. That will enable us to bring a fairly concrete proposal to town council as a part of a phase 2 for ultimate design work for a future community center for the town of Louisville.
Part of their task under this contract will also be to meet with our stakeholder groups.
That is
and
correct.
to try to analyze and assess the needs of each one of these groups, so we have an idea of what we're playing with at the end of this process before we actually put a shovel in the ground. We know what we're working with from the standpoint of square footage and size and function and form.
And I guess what we're working for too is we have a meeting called on the front end of our budget meeting this next Monday on the 15th, and we will be prepared to consider that pre-planning contract and possibly take action on that.
Ms. Gallman, Mr. Franklin, you're part of our work group. Do you have any comments you'd like to add to this?
Nope.
Very good. This is an exciting time for the town of Louisville. We hope you'll stay tuned. It's going to be quite a facility.
Okay, lastly, under my reports, as council and staff will recall, we've been engaged for the last, I guess, couple of months with consideration of whether or not to request a reduction of speed on Yadkinville Highway from 45 down to 35. This had been, I guess, a conversation that was a result for some requests from management at Vienna Village. After careful consideration by staff and council, we decided that that was probably something that was going to be too complicated to get into at this point. Council, at their meeting last week, directed staff to look at considering requesting signage be placed along Yadkinville Highway for the Department of Transportation to consider to, I guess, provide awareness of safety issues along this stretch at the Vienna Village area. I've been engaged in conversation with J.P. Couch of the NCDOT, sent him some requested or, I guess, considered ideas that we've pulled out as staff and with the MUTCD, and hopefully we will end up having a conversation that will yield some acceptable, I guess, signage alternatives to be placed along that road.
Mr. Franklin, you've done a little bit of backgrounding on this for us. You want to chime in here?
Without getting into a lot of detail, Mike, I think there is a workable solution to provide advance warning for the roadway users, which are the traveling public, for the potential for unexpected entry into the roadway of pedestrians. And there is signage that is spelled out in the MUTCD, the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and the applicability of that and how to actually apply that to this particular area. I passed that along to both you and Hank, and the sections and spelled out, and I think that's probably what you're discussing with DOT now. So
that's correct.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you for your work on that, Mr. Franklin. It illuminated some things to me that I wasn't aware of, which is not too hard to do. That's called self-deprecation. Thanks. Okay. Very good. Hank, if you go through, please, the actions we took at our briefing meeting.
Certainly. Last week on April 4th, we considered and approved Proclamation 2019002 declaring April 7th through April 13th, 2019 as the week of the young child. Stormwater repairs at 960 Sequoia Drive. We considered and approved Ordinance 2019015, amending Budget Ordinance 2018001 in an amount of $21,990 to contract with Russell Construction for drainage repairs near 960 Sequoia Drive. And second on this action, we considered and approved Resolution 2019032, approving a contract for drainage repairs near 960 Sequoia Drive to Russell Construction Company of Vance, North Carolina. And then moving forward, we considered and approved Resolution 2019031, accepting the declaration of withdrawal of road dedication for a strip of land at the end of Rainbow Avenue. And then lastly, we took action assigning voting delegates to the North Carolina League of Municipalities City Vision Conference, which will be held May 14th, 2019 through May 16th, 2019 in Hickory. Primary voting delegate is assigned to Town Manager Hank Perkins. Alternate is assigned to Town Clerk Joyce Walker.
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, we do take, from time to time, we do take action at our briefing sessions because of the timeliness and the urgency of those actions. We report them out at our council meetings so that you can have that airing of them through our public communication outlets. Again, you're always welcome to attend those briefing sessions on the first Thursday of every month, where we do try to entertain you there as well. Council, before we get to the good of the order and the final set of public comments, maybe, do we want to address Mr. Yenyor's
Yes.
Yes.
situation and make a decision whether we want to consider that as a council or pass it on to public safety or do something with it?
I was going to bring it up in the council comments.
Thank you,
so
Jeff.
I agree. I think we need to.
What's your pleasure?
Well, I guess a couple of things. I mean, he lives on a town road, right?
Yes.
So this is our kind of thing. You know, the man loves his son, just like I love my sons. And so, you know, when you have kids, and you guys all know this, you kind of go up and down with them, you walk alongside them, you struggle with them, and he's struggling. Now, there are times when you raise your kids when they can't hear. They can hear, but they can't hear. You know what I'm saying?
They can hear, but they don't
They
listen.
choose
Yeah,
not to.
well,
Right. Selective hearing.
Yeah, but this is a real issue, and I just think that we should go ahead and assist him. Go ahead and put those signs out, and just as a measure of compassion. And I just admire the man for coming and doing that.
This was done through public comment. The issue is a little bit more in depth than was presented during public comment. I would caution that it was an administrative procedure for the decision to whether or not place the sign at this, and Public Works Director George Hauser was put in place. I think it would be appropriate, if council would be okay with it, to go through public safety to consider this as well. I'll offer that as well for this evening.
Council members?
So,
Go ahead.
if you don't mind.
Sorry, yeah.
So Jeff, I'm with you. I completely, my heart was bleeding. You know, like you, I mean, many of us, I have a child too, or kids. I actually spoke with him. He called me, and you know, I told him I was going to do everything that I could. I actually placed a call to Joyce Kravick, who's actually a friend of mine and also our state senator. Could not get through to her, but left a message, and then I went and looked at the North Carolina general statutes for what our state laws are, and it actually reflects to go back to the municipalities. That's where it goes. You can look it up. It's GS something 102. And I called Todd back, and I spoke with him after speaking, of course, with George and Hank, and knowing the situations and the communications that they've had with Todd, Mr. Yenyor. And at this point, there's really nothing that we have in our town bylaws that can do much, other than our empathy and stuff that we feel for him, other than as a council to maybe pass something different that we could do for him. But if we do for one, we have to do for all. That's the only problem. So my 2 cents is, yes, I would love to do something, but if we do for one citizen, I, like all of them, we're going to have to do for everybody. So with that said, that's my 2 cents. But I did speak with Todd.
Hank, could you clarify what you were saying a second ago about the safety committee and administrative review? And
Yeah, George is here, and I'd welcome him to make comment as well. George, you want to say anything about this situation?
he came prepared.
He got pictures, yeah. Everything I give him.
Like Hank said, it's a little bit more detailed than what he presented.
Would you state your name and address, please?
I'll be the first one to tell you that I do not like to consider the street as a play area. I don't want it to be set up as a play zone. And with that said, I spoke to Mr. Yenor, and I knew that he was not a fan of what I was telling him. I'm pretty sure that I did my research. I talked to a couple of members of council as well, and I've even spoken to staff at DOT. We can, well, as a council, you can make whatever decisions that you feel that are necessary. But to me, I feel that if he really loves his son, he wouldn't want him to play in the street. The signs really give us a false sense of security. We can put the signs up, but then, just like you mentioned, it kind of opens up a avenue for having to put signs up for other reasons. But I can share with you, if you'd like, what I found out from DOT. But that's, if you want me to go that route.
Mayor.
Or was it DOT when you were asking them about the recreational aspect of a request? What was their comment?
That it was absolutely not. That I asked if someone came to them, and I gave him the situation, would they put up a sign? And he said that if they met the policy, which, you know, on the surface they do, and then I said, well, if they mention that the reason for wanting to put the sign up was for recreational purposes, for the child to ride a bicycle in the street, he was absolutely not. I could see if it was for a, you know, like a road crossing or something like that, but it wouldn't fly for just the child playing in the street.
So let me give you a different look at it. I've got 4 kids. I live on Grapevine Road. Speed limit is 50. 70 is about what they do when they go by our place. And, you know, we drilled in our kids constantly, and we've got a big place, so there's not really any reason for them to be out front, but you do not get in the road, you do not get in the road, you do not get in the road. One day, my daughter walks up to the road with my son, dares him to step in it. And they're standing on the edge of the road, and he's got his foot out, and he's getting ready to go, and cars coming. Dad has a voice that can really project, and it did. And 2 kids turned around, and they were white as a ghost because Dad had caught them. He can't do that with his son. He can't do that. And so I would just say that's an instance that happened to me that I can really see that would be helpful for folks to just be aware there's somebody here that can't hear. If he's a kid, he's 7, he just wants to play. He isn't thinking like we are. So I don't know that he was necessarily saying my kid was I want to make the street a playground, but the way the neighborhoods are and the way things are in those neighborhoods, there's a lot of activity that goes on around the road. So.
He did say that he wanted this child to ride his bicycle in the street like the other kids, I guess.
Well, I'm going to jump in here. I think when we are sitting here and we have a similar case, and we are quoting the exact same policy that this falls under, MUTCD, for one location in town that is a DOT road, and now we're talking a town-maintained road, they should be treated the same. If we're going to look at a DOT road that is not a town-maintained road, and we're going to ask for a potential exception on it, then we need to be careful that we're not doing, or we are trying to do the same thing for a town-maintained road.
Could I jump in, please? First off, just to clarify some things, in the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices, there is no provision in that entire manual for a deaf child area, for a blind child area, for an autistic child area. That is not contained in the code. If you look at what has been provided by the state, that George has there at the podium, and that you guys have a link to, if you clicked on the links in the email that was sent out, there is a memo from the individuals that were the chief engineers for DOT at the time in 2003. It's old as dirt, but it's still in effect at this point in time, that references an attachment, and that attachment has 7 burger dots on it. That if we were to move forward on this, all 7 of those burger dots ought to be met. Now, right at the top of it, I don't have it here in front of me, but I've read it many times. It talks about engineering judgment, okay? Somebody on our staff needs to make that engineering judgment call, because DOT is not going to make that for us. Under the circumstances I wrote down and looked at, we have a cul-de-sac where this property or these folks live at. The cul-de-sac has 7 driveways off of it, okay? One of them obviously is the homeowner where the child lives at. I would assume that he knows his neighbors. The other 6 driveways know if they see that child in the street that the child has hearing impairments and so forth, and would be looking out for them. What would not happen is a UPS truck pull in, a FedEx truck pull in to the cul-de-sac, the mail carrier potentially, or a substitute mail carrier pulled into the cul-de-sac. Any number of folks from the outside pull into that cul-de-sac. I believe there's an opportunity, without opening up a can of worms, if you will, to utilize and erect a sign that would say deaf child area at the entrance to that particular cul-de-sac. The street that is coming down and making a left turn, actually the street continues on into the cul-de-sac under the same name, but the street that goes to the left, I would hope that the parent would not allow son under any circumstances to be on a bicycle out in that area. I don't believe that we're establishing a playground area by doing this, and I would be reluctant for us to designate any area even up on Sequoia Drive, because we know how folks drive on Sequoia Drive at a much higher rate of speed. If there is any one location in town that or similar other locations where there is a cul-de-sac, and we didn't ask the individual tonight, but I would suspect that they purchased this property to live on a cul-de-sac under the circumstances. When they were making that decision of where they wanted to raise this child at and to provide safety and so forth, might have been a consideration of why they actually purchased this property to begin with in Louisville. As far as the reference to the manual of the uniform traffic, that's basically, it would only apply to the actual placement in the ground, X number of feet off of the right of way, the type of post that the sign will be mounted to. And there are 2 drawings. One is bigger and one is smaller, and I would recommend that if we do go that route, we use the smaller one of the 2. But if you'll go to those links that were contained in the email, the first 2 shows you the memo from the chief engineers. The second, once you click on the first link, you get 2 PDFs, if you will. The first one is the memo dated 2003. The second is the guidelines with the 7 burger dots that you ought to look over. And again, that last burger dot is state is saying if it's a street, a municipality maintained road, they're not going to have anything to do with it. So it's basically saying municipalities are free to make a decision about those roads that are maintained themselves. So with that being said, I'm not trying to sway we probably need to talk about it. I don't have a problem with it going to public safety for their comments, and all, but I think we can do it if we want to, is my point.
Yeah, and I think I had talked to Hank too today. I rode down to the neighborhood as well and saw the cul-de-sac, so I think it's just a matter of placement as well. Again, I had conversations with this gentleman. He called me on Friday evening. I don't know if he spoke to anyone else, but, and then George and I, so again, I mean, I'm there with him. And opening up a Pandora's box, I mean, that can be with any topic. I think it's just a matter of placement to some degree, where it goes. Again, maybe not in the middle of Sequoia, no, but where it goes might be just a matter. And I told him I'd do everything in my power if I could to help him. So I give it my vote, Jeff. I'm with you. If we can do it, we can do it. Whether or not I can help every citizen in Louisville with an impairment, I personally can't, but, you know.
So let's do this then maybe, and see what you guys think about this. Can we send it to the safety committee and tell them, we would really like to put a sign up here in here. Can you go take a recommendation as to where we should put it?
I'd be for that personally.
I mean, I don't know.
When I think back in Fred, I think you were on the council, maybe Robert, you were too. We had a basketball goal that was in Willowmead at the end of a cul-de-sac. There was virtually no traffic except the traffic that came and went from those homes. And the several boys who lived at the end of the cul-de-sac played basketball. And they played basketball in the cul-de-sac, which is a street. We were pretty insistent that they not play in the street because of the reasons of potential danger with garbage trucks and delivery trucks, and the points that you were mentioning, Fred, that they come in there not knowing that there's kids playing basketball. I don't say that to argue the point one way or the other. What I want to say is that there are precedents that we can set by doing this. I don't have problems setting precedents and then denying the next application that comes along just based upon that's what we want to do. But that's not good government. That's not predictable to people in town who rely on us for predictable decision-making. I'm really torn on this. Jeff, what I suspect, I don't have any qualm with what your suggestion is to shoot at public safety and ask them where they would make the placement. I think that prolongs this by 60 days.
Yeah, well, then let's just do it.
You know? And so it's really, I think it really, it would be my preference for us to dispose of this now, rather than prolonging it for another 2 months.
Well, the good thing about the 7 bullet points that are listed, and I do have that pulled up directly here in front of me, is that the sign has to come down on the child's 16th birthday. So
That's
it's
correct.
not that it can be kept up forever. It has a timeline.
Right.
It has to be removed on the child's 16th birthday.
And he's a second grader, so.
Can I see about making this hopefully a little easier for everyone? This is, I said at the beginning, this is sort of an administrative matter, but what we're hearing for here as staff is that council is in support of the placement of a deaf child sign. So we can take that under consideration and then make the proper decisions on the placement of that sign, where it would be most appropriate.
All right.
Is that okay?
So we'll
Yeah.
handle
Okay.
this- We'll handle this as
All
a
right.
council direction rather than a council motion. Everybody fine with that?
We've heard it.
Okay.
Great.
Very good. And people think government doesn't listen. We're very attuned to that. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the final opportunity for you to address the council this evening. I know Mrs. Fry is nodding her head at me, and she wants to again remind us that to participate in the town survey, which will be appearing in your mailboxes starting next week. So I'll assume that would be the comment you would make if you were so inclined to come up. Anyone else wish to make a comment? Please come forward at this time. Yes, sir, please come up. State your name and your address, if you would, please.
My name is Stan Mock. I live in Sequoia, and it concerns me every day. It's very dangerous. People trying to walk, people riding their bicycles, people speeding. Somebody stepped in front of me the other day. I don't know how they did that, but it only takes a split second like that. So I don't know the solution to it. I'm sure signs would help, right? Something should help, surely. It's just a matter of time, is what I'm saying.
Thank you, Mr. Mock.
All right.
Anyone wish to make a comment? With that, we'll close this section of the public forum Council members, closing comments, closing thoughts. Yeah, let me just say it was a good night's work. We earned our substantial pay that we make every month, but I believe we gave every matter due deliberate consideration and made some good decisions this evening. Thank you for all your efforts, and thank you for caring so much about the town. With that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Ms. Mock makes the second, Ms. Goldman makes, Ms. Mock makes the motion, Ms. Goldman makes the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching at home. Thank you for sticking with us in the council chambers here, and we'll see you next month. We're adjourned.